building a connected consumer experience. So in the last year, we have seen tremendous change in Canadian e-commerce, and that has had a pretty sizable impact on the retail industry overall. We're seeing evidence of this in the investments that merchants are making in digital strategies, in new technologies, and in having this laser focus on implementing omnichannel. Because it's been recognized that the game is changing, that consumers have far greater control, far greater choice than ever before. This is having an impact, a pretty sizable impact on their overall expectation of the end-to-end shopping experience into and including delivery. It has never been more important, that said, to ensure that merchants are completely connected to the consumer throughout the entire transaction, creating this seamless consumer experience that encourages consumers to repeat the experience. This change is being driven largely by changes in consumer shopping behaviors. So not only are we seeing a significant increase in Canadian household shopping for the first time, but we're also seeing pretty significant changes in shopping frequency. And the more shoppers shop, and the more experiences they have across merchants, the greater their expectation is for all aspects of their shopping experience, into and including delivery, which is actually one of the areas where we're seeing some of those rapidly increasing changes in expectation. Consumers are demanding a far greater delivery experience than ever before. What we're also seeing is a small number of merchants starting to do some really innovative things in this space, breaking away from the past because they recognize that convenience and delivery is deeply tied to today's consumer and their customer loyalty, and it can act as a key brand differentiator as well. The fact is the shopping experience is no longer just digital, and the consumer does not care about channel. Today's connected consumer considers all, when they evaluate their shopping experience, which they evaluate in a very singular way, they're considering all pre- and post-purchase elements, which all influence today the overall perception of the shopper experience. And therefore, it's never been more important to focus on it. The fact is, you share a common goal. Merchants and shoppers, you share a common goal. And the common goal is removing effort from the shopper experience, removing effort from the customer experience. Consumers, their objective is to consume. They just want to move through this path as quickly as possible to get to the point of consumption. You share that goal. But your goal or your objectives really involve brand conversion, it involves generating sales and brand loyalty. In order to do this, it sounds simple. In order to do this, you require alignment. So consider the importance of this experience from the first-time shopper in dealing with your brand for the first time. So a shopper who's interacting with your brand and your products for the first time, or maybe it's one of the contingent of shoppers who are shopping online for the first time, but shopping really with much greater frequency in a much smaller window of time. Consider how important it is to engage with that shopper, to get them shopping with you as quickly as possible, to create a really compelling end-to-end shopper experience that helps move them into transact to the point where they're transacting with your product and your brand. So it sounds very simple, but it requires a significant amount of alignment. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion over the coming days around the importance of that alignment, but the fact is, in order to do this, in order to be able to respond to what today's consumer is looking for, you require alignment from the folks extending the offer, to the folks making good on the offer, to the folks delivering on that offer. You require alignment from your digital teams, from your fulfillment teams, and from your marketing teams in order to respond to what the Canadian consumer, the connected consumer is looking for today, which is a precise promise, fast delivery, and a convenient experience. So why do you care? Well, you care because of what we're seeing happening in Canada over the last year. So at Canada Post, we have a unique view into what's happening in Canadian e-commerce because we have a fairly substantial market share of the B2C commerce within Canada. So this market share provides us with a really interesting view into what's happening in Canadian e-commerce. So we know essentially what the Canadian merchant is shipping and what the Canadian consumer receives. What we can tell you about 2014 was we saw a pretty significant spike in the number of net new Canadian households shopping online for the first time. So well over 1 million net new Canadian households shopping for the first time with Canadian merchants and international merchants. But more importantly, what we're seeing is evidence that the Canadian shopper is starting to mature. We're seeing evidence of that in a couple of ways. One of them is again, leveraging our personal data and having some interesting insight into this. We see Canadian consumers starting to interact with what we would consider to be non-traditional e-commerce products or e-commerce merchants. So last year, for example, we saw an industry segment doing something really interesting that hadn't been on our radar the year prior. We saw a 27% year-over-year increase in online purchases with merchants in housewares and home furnishings. Had not been on our radar prior to 2014. And in the first quarter of 2015, we saw something really interesting happening with the toys, games, hobby segment. A 37% increase in year-over-year e-commerce-based parcel volumes being generated by toys, games, and hobbies merchants because consumers are starting to source new types of products online. They are essentially expanding the type of product that they purchase online because their comfort level has increased, their experience is increasing, and they're looking to expand the convenience of online shopping into categories that they haven't typically tested online before. Well, one of the other things we're seeing is not just the non-traditional e-commerce categories, but we're seeing some really interesting changes in shopping frequency in Canada. Essentially, we're seeing some pretty significant movement across these categories of shoppers into the two top categories which we care most about, which is frequent shoppers and hyper shoppers, generating they represent about 36% of Canadian households today. But what's really interesting is the rate in which we're seeing shopping households moving through these product categories. One example of that would be in 2013, 20% of first-time shoppers, so Canadians dabbling their toe in e-commerce, testing the waters, wanting to understand what the experience is like, within the course of a year becoming converted. 20% of those shoppers evolve into frequent buyers or frequent shopping households within the course of 1 year. They're converted, they're convinced, they're online. Hyper shopping households, so these are households that generate a minimum of 11 purchases over the course of the year. This group grew by 40% in 2014. So what we're seeing is an increase in the number of net new households shopping online in Canada in 2014. We're seeing them greatly expand the product categories that they're shopping with online. But more importantly, we're seeing e-commerce shopping become really deeply rooted in how they shop. And this is who shares or who competes for the wallet of hyper shopping households. Really dominated by the mass merchants. So 70% of hyper shopping households purchase from mass merchant retailers today, followed by fashion, books, music, videos, and consumer electronics. So the question is, what is your delivery promise? Consider that your delivery promise starts, or the clock starts, at checkout. And regardless of the channel, consumers are holding you to that delivery promise and have greater expectations than ever before. But meeting this delivery promise is heavily influenced by your ability to fulfill. So the question is your promise precise? We know that expected delivery dates is a key piece of information that shoppers are looking for today during checkout. So the question is, are delivery windows good enough? Or are there a number of merchants having impact on online shoppers, so much so the merchants that are able to offer precision and expected delivery dates, are these merchants starting to have an impact on the consumer's expectations for more precision and visibility in delivery dates? Well, what we can tell you is the expected delivery dates, they have a big impact on conversion. So what our research studies tell us is that not only does it have a big impact on conversion, but shoppers are willing to do something about it. 11% of online shoppers who abandon their shopping cart do so over concerns about precision in delivery not being offered at checkout. So the question is your promise fast? This is absolutely one area where the consumer's expectation is being influenced most significantly, and being influenced by by big players in the market doing it well and being really bold about it. In fact, consumers' expectations are being so greatly influenced that speed is becoming a purchase consideration that has an impact on conversion, brand choice, and loyalty. So how fast does it need to be? So we're obviously in US and international markets seeing some pretty aggressive investments and plays around same day. Not as quick in the Canadian market, but the fact is there's appetite. So we surveyed Canadian consumers last year to get some insights into a range of their delivery preferences, including interest in same day. What we learned was, if provided with the option of a same-day service, 35% of Canadian consumers would have used it at least once over the course of that year at a cost to them. So back on this, actually, before I leave that last thought. The fact is, there's appetite, and few players in Canada doing it. So the same day play, there's still an opportunity to leverage it as a retail differentiator. So the question is two-day delivery the new standard, or is two-day delivery free the new consumer expectation? And how do you do two-day delivery free across growing markets in Canada? How are you accessing, for example, the consumers in the West Coast who came to the table and started shopping in ridiculous numbers last year? Well, the answer is you have to tap into your omnichannel fulfillment strategies. You need to do what you can to get a line of sight into your visibility. You need to do what you can to be able to access your inventory across your entire network, and access your inventory wherever it is, wherever it's closest to your shopper, all the while maximizing inventory turnover. But the fact is, we're actually seeing evidence that this investment in omnichannel fulfillment strategies is already happening. So we very closely monitor the holiday performance of merchants. We've been doing it for a couple of years to just really understand how the holidays are going, what folks are doing, what you're doing well, where Canadian merchants are struggling, and how we can help. So we started doing this in 2013. And 2013, was a challenging year for the market overall. The holiday season was a challenging one. Fast forward to 2014, and it was a different story. In 2014, we started to see some really interesting evidence that fulfillment strategies had been the focus over the previous year. For example, we monitored really closely what retailers were doing around Cyber Week this past holiday season. And very clearly, Canadian retailers doubled down on this opportunity. I mean, they were on board and throwing everything they had at Cyber Week. But what was really interesting from our perspective was we see the promotions dropping or launching, and we see how quickly Canadian merchants are able to induct, are able to give that person to count and close. The remarkable change that we've seen from one year to the next was in fulfillment times. We saw in 2014, during peak season, the challenging peak season, that Canadian merchants' ability to fulfill same day, next day, on huge volumes of holiday orders had happened. Big change. The other change we've seen as a result of what we know is what we recognize to be investments in fulfillment strategies is holiday cutoff dates, shipping deadlines. 2013 was a challenging year. We wondered, what would 2014 look like? Would the market be really conservative? Well, it was quite the opposite. What we saw happening with e-com merchants, where they did what they could to just squeak out 1, 2, 3 days critical selling windows during a critical time of year for the industry, and it was very clearly related to their omnichannel fulfillment investments. Omnichannel fulfillment is obviously, what's going to enable today dropshipping, today shipping in Canada, but it also has a major impact on the convenient delivery experience you're able to extend to your shoppers. We know that 35% of Canadian consumers, they are not home during the day for delivery. No one is able to be home during the day for a delivery. When consumers are not home, they all have unique, and whether they're home or not, they all have unique needs around their delivery experience. to address that scope of need, those scope of preferences, is in providing them with choice. And so what we see with this surge in omnichannel retail investment, omnichannel fulfillment investment, is the ability to provide full inventory visibility to your customers, to be able to allow customers to reserve in store, pick up in store, ship to store, pick up in store, or just getting the inventory closer to the customer so you can ship from store. Or maybe it's leveraging a third-party network to expand your retail reach and pick up convenience for your shoppers. But all to say, when you do this, and the 48% of frequent shoppers who are among the most valuable shoppers in Canada said they would shop more with you online. They would shop more online if provided with greater delivery choices. So this isn't about shopper shopping more, this is about channel shift. So if you're able to respond, if you're able to better respond to the needs and the preferences and the demands of the 48% of frequent shoppers, you're going to capture a greater share of their wallet. And what could be more convenient than adding another 6,000 retail locations to your existing network? To be within 5 kilometers of over 90% of Canadian consumers. Or better yet, why don't you put shoppers in control? Why don't you give shoppers control over their experience so they can choose each and every time they shop online where they want that item delivered, be it they're on holidays, they're out of town working, they want it closer to work, they want to keep the shopper the gift of surprise from someone they live with at home. And here's where we're seeing some of the greatest innovation today around the receiving experience for Canadian consumers. We're seeing, be it drones dropping stuff in your backyard, to 3-hour delivery windows, to deliveries to the trunk of your car, to parcel lockers providing better pickup convenience in high traffic areas, helping you to avoid store traffic. Or maybe it's in the lobby of your apartment and condo, steps away from your front door, where you can pick it up when it's most convenient to you. Or maybe you're one of the 4 million Canadian households on CMB, where it's sort of the same scenario. End of your street, pick it up when it's most convenient for you, all with the objective of eliminating one of these. Increasing first-time delivery attempts, keeping shoppers happy, keeping shoppers engaged, keeping shoppers shopping. So the question is, how connected are you? Are you organized in a way that allows you to do what the consumer is looking for today, to create that connected consumer experience, to be able to extend to the shopper what they're looking for, which is a precise delivery date, fast delivery, convenient delivery. And the key is, as we discussed earlier, is really just about alignment. The alignment of groups who are responsible for various steps of the customer touch point, who might have varying drivers, varying performance measurements, varying objectives. Aligning these teams will help you to accomplish extend what the consumer is looking for today, which is a more effective delivery promise. I'd encourage you all to join us at noon to talk a little bit more about the importance of this in the connected